Perfect. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our webinar of promoting engagement and interaction in person and online. My name is Jasmine. I'm a learning technology consultant with Teaching and Learning Services, and I'm here today with my lovely colleague, Mariette, who will be co-hosting the webinar with me. Mariette is also a learning technology consultant at TLS. So as you can see, we will be recording the session, and the recording is to be posted on our Teaching and Learning knowledge base under the webinar section, and there you'll find the recording, the slides, and any resources or documentation that we might share today throughout the session. If you want to enable captions, did we turn that on, Mariette?
Let me see, I could do it.
Oh, it's on. Okay. Yes, it's on. So if you do want to enable the captions or turn them on, they are available. And with that, we can move on to our session outcomes for today. So we have a few outcomes or goals. Our first is to define what engagement and interaction mean in the context of in-person, online, and blended learning environments. We will also be identifying different technologies and strategies that you can use to include in all of these types of environments to promote engagement in your course. We're not many, but we can still try for a little activity. So I just want to kick things off with some interaction here. And we're going to use the text from the annotation tool in Zoom to write out what you think student engagement is when it comes to learning and why it's important. So to participate, I'll ask you to click a button that's usually along the top of the screen that says View More options. It should give you a drop-down that has an option for Annotate. And when you click it, you should see a toolbar appear that looks like this one. And if you just click the text option and click anywhere on the white part of the screen, and you can start typing your response. So I'll give you a moment to get familiar with that. If you can't get it to work, that's okay. You can post in the chat and I can put it on the board for you, no problem. So why is creating opportunities for interaction or engagement important when it comes to learning? Perfect. So we have some answers coming in. They understand the content better. Oh, we have a little overlay here. Keep student. I think it keeps students' topics being covered, discussed. I wonder if I can move it. Okay. Oops. Better retention to grasp content. Those are all right to keep people awake. Yes. So yeah, to increase their attention and their focus, I think we've captured that. It's motivating for students. It can promote higher level critical thinking skills and more meaningful learning experiences. Another thing is that it usually will put the student at the center of their learning rather than the instructor being at the center. It increases student success, as the research shows, and it increases student empowerment. Anyone who wants to learn needs to engage. Yes. Perfect. So I can see that we do have some understanding of why engagement is important. So I'm going to just clear this before moving on to the next slide. I seem to not have access to the annotate. Mariette, are you able to clear it?
Yeah, let me try to do that.
That's so weird. There you go. Thank you. Okay. So we do understand the why of why it's important, but if we just back up for a second, before we tackle the how to get students to engage, we're going to address the what. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, what is engagement exactly? Because it can mean a few things. So the topic of engagement and interaction in education is a multidimensional one. Before giving you strategies on how to increase engagement, we think it's important to realize that there are different modes of engagement and interaction when it comes to education specifically. So interaction can occur through students engaging with course content. So it's not just about how they will acquire the content, but how they will apply it. It can occur between students. It's more than just the output of a group project, for example, but really how students interact with each other and work together to build a type of community. It can occur between an instructor and a student as well. So things to consider for this would be how will your students interact with you and what formal or informal ways can you connect with them? And creating opportunities for engagement is important regardless of the context that you're in. So if you're in person or you're online synchronous, which means you're present in a Zoom session at the same time, or online asynchronous, which allows students to access their work on their own time. It doesn't really matter. Creating opportunities for engagement is important in all of these contexts. And we're going to present you with strategies and technologies that you can use for each of these today. So I'll pass the floor to Mariette, who's going to talk about in-person activities and strategies.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. So let's look at some strategies for in-person or for face-to-face classes. So here's an example of how you might want to structure a 50-minute interactive lecture. So you can kind of get started right away with an interactive activity, a welcome and check-in using polling at McGill. So for instance, you can have, one or two polling questions on the previous lecture, or some polling questions to kind of check their pre-existing knowledge on a new topic. Or you could even have like an informal polling question, just asking students how they're feeling. And for 12 minutes, you can do a situating activity, showing students where you are in terms of at a certain point in the course. Then you could flip back to lecturing. And then for 1 minute, you could have a think break where kind of you ask a question, you give students like a couple of seconds, 20 seconds to think about it, and then you go on and address it, and then go back to lecturing for 10 minutes. Then you could do like a think, pair, share activity where you ask a question, students kind of think about it on their own, and then they turn to their neighbor and they discuss. So think, pair, share works well in large classes and small classes, involves like individual reflection and then turning to a neighbor to discuss. And students can also be invited to kind of share with the class as well. And then flipping back to lecturing and wrapping up, and then using exit cards. So the last 5 minutes could be for exit cards where students can, for instance, write down a key takeaway from the class, or if they have any questions, and this could be done like on paper or using the discussion tool in my courses. So as Jasmine mentioned, there's three main types of interactions. There's the student instructor, student-student, and student content. So for student instructor in an in-person context, you can use something called the 10-2 teaching strategy. So you can lecture for 10 minutes and then allow for 2 minutes of small group discussion, where students can maybe summarize what you just presented, or maybe you have a specific question for them you'd like to answer. And the idea here is to kind of create a space where students can remain engaged, so where they can reflect, discuss, share, ask questions. And the next type of interaction is the student-student. So you could have students, for instance, do small group work. If you're in a classroom that has whiteboards or writable walls, you can have students use the whiteboards in the classroom. If there's no physical whiteboards, you can also use a tool called Mural, which is a digital collaborative whiteboard. And lastly, the student content, you could use polling at McGill. Again, polling is really a great way to kind of gauge students' understanding of the material and to get them really actively involved in their learning. So this is a screen capture of Mural. Now this is kind of like a fun icebreaker activity for like a new team of students, a group of students, where they identify their hopes and fears, and they use like different color sticky notes on the mural canvas to identify their hopes and fears. Mural is great not only for like fun, creative icebreaker activities like this, but also for like concept mapping, for case studies, for brainstorming. Yeah, so mural is really great. And we do have a lot of examples of how instructors have used mural. Okay, an example of student content interaction. So this is polling at McGill or Slido. This is a screen capture and where students are asked to like identify the bone that's encircled in red. So again, polling is really great to get like to check students' understanding and to get them really get their attention and to keep them motivated. So there are a lot of different teaching strategies, and these are just like the categories of teaching strategies. Oh, thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, these are just all the different categories of the teaching strategies that are on the TLS website. So for interactive lectures, you'll find information on the 10-2 strategy. For discussion generation, you're going to find the think, pair, share. Synthesis and reflection, you'll find the exit cards, and for misconceptions, you'll find information about polling. So just a question for everybody on the call today. What strategies have you used in your class to promote engagement? Like, how did your students interact with other students? Did you do group work? Have you used the physical whiteboard? Okay, polling. Yeah, how did students interact with the content? You used polling. Slido, think, pair, share. Polling, pair, share. A 1 minute paper. Oh yeah, the 1 minute paper is really good too. Okay, great. So you've already used quite a few have already used a lot of different teaching strategies and different technologies. But one thing we have to think about also when you're thinking about what teaching strategies you're going to use is like what's available in the classroom, what features are available in the classroom, right? Like if you're going to do group work, can students easily turn to each other and form groups and have discussions? Are there whiteboards? If there's physical whiteboards, maybe the students might be interested in using the physical whiteboards. If there's not, they might be interested in using mural. So there's a lot of things to think about. And a really neat tool to kind of see what your classroom looks like, maybe if you're teaching in a new classroom you never taught before, is the classroom audio visual instructions tool. And yeah, so if you go to that website, you can, I'll put it in the chat. You can sign in with your McGill credentials, and you'll be asked to like select a building and select the room, and so you'll be able to see like images of that room. You'll be able to see like the equipment that's available in that room and any like instructions on how to use the equipment that's available. So that's a really neat tool. Like I think a lot of people don't know about that, but it's a really neat tool. Okay, so let's look at some online synchronous strategies. So it's kind of like the same thinking with the in-person can also be applied to online. And online synchronous is like everybody being present in Zoom at the same time. So you can have a welcome and check-in. You can use the polling in Zoom. You could use polling at McGill, or you could even use Mural to kind of check in on your students, see how they're doing. You could situate where you are in the course, and then lecture. A 1 minute think break where you ask students a question, have them think about it, and then you go on and address it. Then you flip back to lecturing. You could also do a teaching strategy called a picture prompt, where you kind of show an image to the students and you ask them to explain it or to write what it's about, and they could use the chat feature in Zoom to do that. Or you could maybe even put them in groups using the breakout rooms in Zoom to do that. There's the picture prompt strategy, and then you could go back to lecturing and wrapping up and then ending with the exit cards where students could kind of, post like a key takeaway, maybe using the discussions tool in my courses. So in terms of student instructor, it's in Zoom. So it's like an online lecture where students can like maybe put questions and comments within the chat. In terms of student, you can do group work using the breakout rooms, or you can use Mural. And in terms of student content, you can use the polling in Zoom or polling at McGill. Now, I attended a keynote session, and it was given by Professor Scott Freeman, who's an instructor at the University of Washington, and he was going to talk about active learning. And he showed this image, and he said, well, this is Henry of Germany at the University of Bologna. And he asked us to type in the chat. He's like, well, what do you see in this image? What do you see? So people were typing, well, this is someone who's lecturing. Students in the front are looking at their notes, following along. There's students in the back that are talking. There's someone else that's sleeping, you know? So he showed us this image. And then he went on to say, well, this was like in the 1300s, so like 800 years ago. And how much has changed since then? So this is really great because he kind of used this image to kind of kickstart or introduce his talk on active learning. So that was really fun. It was a really good talk, actually. So yes, that's the picture prompt strategy. All right. Okay, so now, Jasmine, I'm gonna pass it to you to talk about online asynchronous strategies.
Thanks so much. I love that strategy. Must have been a good talk. The picture prompt, I mean. So yes, let's talk about online asynchronous strategies. And the big one that I'm going to talk about today is discussion boards. So my course's discussion boards are an excellent tool to promote engagement and interaction in an asynchronous environment. The discussion board can be used to achieve all modes of interaction. This slide provides a basic overview of various activities that can be carried out using discussion boards. And as you can see, they can be utilized in multiple contexts. And I'm going to go through each context and explain the corresponding activities in a little more detail. So as the instructor, you have the opportunity to interact with your students on a discussion board. And if we look at some examples of how you can utilize it, one of them is having a basic Q&A forum. So this type of forum serves as a platform for students to ask questions, to seek clarification and address misunderstandings about the course or the content. By utilizing the discussion board, you and your teaching assistants can save time by addressing these frequently asked questions collectively instead of going through them one by one or individually through emails. You can also use the discussion board for introductions and icebreakers, which Mariette mentioned earlier, showing one in Mural. You could do it in the discussion forum. So it can be used to foster a sense of connection between you and your students. You could have at the beginning of the semester, you can introduce yourself through a video shared on the discussion board, for example, and then encourage your students to introduce themselves either through text or through video. And additionally, you can initiate an icebreaker activity by posing a fun question. For example, if you had superpowers, what would they be and why? So this promotes both instructor to student and student to student interactions, and it creates a supportive and engaging learning community from the beginning of the course. You might also consider using the discussion board for reflective journals. So it can serve as a space for students to post journals. You can configure it so that only you and the individual student can view their journal entries. So throughout the semester, students can answer question prompts, maybe reflect on the course materials, and it allows you to provide personalized feedback to each student. And it also enables students to track their progress and growth over the duration of the course. Discussion boards also are also an excellent platform for students to connect with each other. And here are some ways that you can encourage student interaction amongst their peers. So you can set up a student cafe, which is a designated forum where students can freely ask questions to each other, engage in conversations, and interact with one another. And this space is a little more unmoderated. It allows for open dialogue and informal discussions. It can serve as an opportunity for students to seek peer-to-peer support, maybe exchange ideas, maybe share interesting content they come across. It's really a space that's dedicated for students to connect with each other. Oh, no, I want to stay on this one. And you can also set it up for group work discussions or private discussions. So you can create separate discussion forums for group work activities where in the forums, only members of a specific group can view and participate in the discussion. This setup enables seamless collaboration amongst group members, and it ensures that their interaction remains focused and relevant to their assigned tasks. If you have a large class, you may also consider dividing students into smaller groups for discussions. This approach can help alleviate the intimidation and potentially foster more meaningful exchanges in a setting that's a little more manageable. You can encourage student to content interaction by utilizing the discussion forum as a platform of reflection and self-assessment. So one strategy is to use it for topic or reading-based questions. You can utilize the discussion board to have students answer questions related to something specific, a specific topic, a specific reading, a specific piece of content. So for instance, you can ask them to maybe provide a brief summary of a reading or respond to a question prompt based on assigned materials. This allows students to demonstrate their comprehension and critical thinking skills while engaging with the content. You can use question prompts that encourage students to reflect deeply on their knowledge and on their understanding of materials. So you can prompt them to identify areas that they're confident in, things that they've learned, connected with, and areas that they need further clarification. So this enables students to assess themselves and their own learning progress and encourages them to actively engage with the course material. So this here, I have a screenshot of an example of a discussion board that was designed for a unit within the World of Chemistry course, which is a fully online course. So you can see that within Unit 2, there are multiple discussion questions that pertain to various topics that are covered in the unit. So this not only encourages, as I said, student participation, but also allows you to identify areas where students may be struggling, may have misconceptions, and then these insights can help you make the necessary clarifications and adjustments in your teaching materials. So the million-dollar question when it comes to discussion boards is how to get your students to engage. And before I talk about or offer strategies to consider, I would like to know from you if you've used discussion boards before. It doesn't have to necessarily be in my courses. Maybe you were at another university. What strategies have you used to increase engagement on discussion forums and to get students posting? You can answer in the chat. Yeah, so I just see the question about the private discussion. So as the instructor, you do have a view to all of the conversations happening. So someone has used the discussion boards before, but didn't get much participation. Somebody seconded that. Encouraging students to ask questions about assignments, asking students to post questions to other students, and they have to interact a number of times over a period of time. Yeah, that's a good one. That's one that I will also offer. So there are different ways that you can get students to participate, and it can vary depending on the group of students you have. It can vary depending on the size of your class, even the context that you're in. I've heard instructors have more difficulty if they're teaching in person and they have an online discussion forum. Students don't tend to engage as much, whereas when we were fully online, that was kind of their space for interacting and connecting, so they engaged more in that particular context. So I'll offer some strategies, and if they apply to you, great. I'm sure that you can take something from them, even if your context is different. So the first one, and an important consideration, is the prompt or question type that you use. So while the general guideline, the obvious one, is to make sure that your question is open-ended, it's worth exploring different types of open-ended questions based on the activity that you're doing, the goal, and the desired outcome of having that discussion board open. So I found this list while doing some research on online discussion boards. I thought it was really interesting. You know, whether you want students to write a summary of something, explore a relationship between two variables, have them make a hypothesis or interpret something or prioritize. These question types should give students the tools to actively contribute to the discussion and express their thoughts effectively. So there are different ways and you can ask questions. And I think it's really important to choose the right way for the goal or for the outcome that you want in that particular discussion forum. These question types may also be applied to any type of feedback that you give students. So any type of replies that you might have to engage with them on the discussion board. So giving them feedback within the forum should maintain that kind of idea exchange or promote deeper inquiry maybe, or help learners link practice to theory. So feedback and responses to their posts are also really important to keep conversations going. Some other strategies, and I already kind of mentioned this, include creating smaller discussion groups, especially in a large class. Students in that kind of context, when they're in a smaller group, even if it's you have a class of 200 students and you created 10 groups of 20 people, that's creating smaller groups. They can engage in more intimate conversations with their peers, and it's a little bit less intimidating and overwhelming to manage comments and keep up with the discussions. And speaking from experience, it can be overwhelming when you go into a discussion forum and there are hundreds of comments or posts that you have to read and go through. So providing smaller groups allows for better participation, and it ensures that students' posts carry more weight, and it increases the likelihood of engagement because of that. You can design activities that require interaction and that are assessed in some way. For instance, you can instruct students to make their own post and reply to at least one peer's post. So recognizing that students are often motivated by external factors like grades or requirements in a course, you can incorporate low stakes discussion activities to ensure engagement. You can also set a rule where students cannot view their peers' posts until they have made their first post. So this approach is useful for knowledge check type questions, and it prevents students from being influenced by their classmates before they share their own thoughts or insights. Some considerations for managing communication in discussion boards. So setting expectations for students, meaning clearly communicating what you expect from them, such as could be word count, required references, or maybe examples that they have to include. Even the desired level of formality in language is important to communicate. It's also good, even if it might seem obvious, letting students know or informing them about the importance of quality of a post over quantity, and emphasizing the value of sharing new ideas rather than simply posting for the sake of posting. So this is a screenshot from a course in my courses. This particular instructor had a rubric that outlined the expectations for posting and then communicated within each module or each week the grade value of their posts, or the cumulative grade value at the end of the term. So this The requirement included the students' original posts and responses to other students. You can see here some of the settings that are in place. So students had to post first before they saw their peers post. This particular instructor also had the groups, the smaller groups, so that students were engaging in smaller cohorts. And they also had a pretty good prompt, which was a case study that students had to evaluate and then answer some type of question from. And I thought this was interesting. This was the rubric that was used. So you can see here, there are expectations for students to make posts in different modules on different weeks. So they didn't have to post every single week. They had to choose 3 different weeks that they were to post throughout the term. There's some expectation for the type of post here, and then the post quality, and they've outlined what they expect for an excellent post, what might need work, and what is unsatisfactory. So it's just really good to communicate these expectations for students so that they know what you want them to do and how often you want them to post. Something else is important to establish netiquette. So explaining the concept of netiquette, which refers to online communication etiquette. So just making it clear that any abusive or offensive communication will not be tolerated in discussion boards, discussion forums. And finally, it's important to determine how your discussion board will be moderated and who will be giving feedback and how. So will you be moderating the posts, or will your teaching assistants handle the responsibility? In some cases, instructors have assigned student moderators that could change week to week. Even some of the science courses have team students, which are hired to help out with courses, and they could be assigned as moderators. Regardless, let students know that their posts will be read, as this does significantly increase motivation. So it's important to strive to maintain some form of presence on the discussion board to prevent students from feeling unmotivated. And from a student's perspective, which I can even say from my own recent experience, is when you spend time participating in a discussion and writing out a really thoughtful post, and then it feels like the instructor or the TA is not really around or not reading what you wrote, it can be very unmotivating. So finding that balance between not dominating the discussion, but also making your active presence within the board is important. So by addressing these factors, you can effectively manage communications in your discussion boards, you can foster engagement, and you can create a nice, supportive, and respectful online learning environment. I also want to mention that discussion boards can be graded. So you can configure the forums and topics so that they're linked to the gradebook in my courses. The view of grading is quite similar to the grading view in assignments and quizzes. So you can give written feedback, you can include a rubric, you can give a points grade for individual or multiple posts. And you can choose whether or not the calculation of the final points to be the sum of the post scores, the average, the highest grade, etc. So there are quite a few options to look at when you're configuring, assessing a discussion board topic. You can also view statistics of posts in a topic as an overview of the general stats or for each student. So you can see how many threads and how many replies were made by a particular student. As you can see here, I kind of whited out the student, but you can see for this particular topic, a breakdown of what their activity was in the discussion board. So there are many ways in which you can use discussion forums for assessment in my courses. Another cool tool that you might want to check out for boosting engagement is a social annotation tool called Perusal. So we use this tool at McGill to let students read documents together. They can leave comments, they can ask questions, they can highlight parts of a reading and chat with each other. And I have participated as a student in social annotation activities, and it was one of my favorite kind of activities as a student, especially in an online environment. So with this type of tool, students can tackle tough readings together by sharing their thoughts or concerns. They can even share their excitement for certain parts of a reading in real time. And it gets the discussion going, it gets them connecting their own experiences with to real life examples. It's like having a student-led discussion on what they're reading, but in an online form. Plus, it helps students get to know each other. So perusal, one of the nice things about it too is that from an instructor perspective is that it creates it generates a confusion report. So it creates a report in which you can kind of zoom in on the spots or the parts of the reading that were confusing and then clear things up. And it's really helpful when targeting where students might be struggling and need improvement with the overall kind of learning experience. This is an example of a perusal reading. So you can see the text here. There we go. This is the text, the reading, and you can see the conversations happening on the side here. So you can see students can post, they can reply to each other, they can, if they wanted to, they can upvote something. If they agree with a student, if they have a similar question, they can indicate that. So it's a really nice tool to just have them kind of collaboratively read something together or engage with a piece of content. Then we have VoiceThread. So VoiceThread is an interactive web-based presentation tool that also promotes collaboration and discussion. So for example, with VoiceThread, students can upload a video file and then other students can view the presentation and they can leave comments on certain timestamps along the video. Their comments can be in text form, it can be in audio form, or even a comment can be made in a video format. We have a few language courses that use this tool, VoiceThread, as it allows students to kind of practice speaking, hearing other students practicing, and then getting feedback from the instructor. So they can kind of have conversations on particular assignments. So it's similar to perusal in terms of collaboration, discussion, and commenting, but VoiceThread is in a multimedia format. So with videos and different types of media that can be included. Mural is another tool that can help foster engagement in your course. It can be used in in-person classes. It can also be used in online synchronous classes and online asynchronous classes or activities. So as Marriott mentioned earlier, it's a digital whitespace tool that allows students to interact and collaborate in a very visual way. Students can post sticky notes, they can create drawings, they can post images and much more. And here they can interact with each other, with the content, and with you. And I have a simple example here of an icebreaker activity that students can complete asynchronously. It's actually a template that Mural provides for you, so you don't have to build something like this. You can just kind of snag it from the templates that Mural offers. And the activity asks students to post an image of a book that they think people should read, and then post a note about why they think so. So you can zoom in on the board. You can see little sticky notes here. You can zoom in quite far on the board and read the individual posts and even leave comments on them. So just to show you that you can create a mural board, and when you share the link with students, they can have access to it anytime and complete the activity. It doesn't have to be in a live setting. Here's another example that was used in a real McGill course. This was it might have been in an online synchronous, but it could be done in an in-person course as well. So it's also a warm-up or an icebreaker. They're really great to get engagement at the start of a lecture, at the start of a class, and then go from there, not just starting with just lecturing. Mural can be used for these types of activities. They're easy to kind of show or demo the types of icebreakers, but it can be used for so many different other types of activities, which can include brainstorming, problem solving, group work. It can be used to present work, etc. We do have a mural webinar coming up next week. So if you are interested in attending and learning more about this tool, which can be used in so many ways, it's really versatile. I encourage you to register, and you can register on the TLS website under events. We'll share the link at the end of this session. Okay, before we wrap up, I would just like to draw your attention to the learning technology ecosystem, which is a graphic that we have at TLS that illustrates the tools, the technologies that we have access to and are supported by McGill. And the important one to highlight, or the important thing to highlight, is that it has different quadrants with different components of your course. For today, the important one is the interaction quadrant. So within this quadrant, you'll find all the tools that support engagement and interaction or interactive activities that you might want to consider using or factoring into your course design. We've covered a few of them today, but if you're looking for something more or something specific, you can always check out the ecosystem to see what's available. And I'll post that in the chat. Perfect. So today we looked at two main things. We looked at different strategies that address three modes of engagement: student to content, and student to instructor. And then we broke it down by different contexts. So strategies that you can use in person, online synchronous, or online asynchronous. And now we pass it over to you if you have any questions for us, or if you want to let us know what your most important takeaway is, or even let us know things you've tried in your classes that have worked or haven't to increase engagement and interaction. So feel free to post in the chat or even unmute yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, hi, thanks very much for this. My question is, well, a lot of the classes I teach, well, most of the classes I teach are in a cohort program where all the students know each other from basically day one. And I'm wondering for the interaction type exercises, if we have to make some changes. Some of these might be work with my students the first week, but then after that might seem almost trivial because they'll say, well, I already know everybody in the class. Why should I do this again? As opposed to a type of course where you're constantly getting students from different majors, different programs, and you may not know your neighbor as well. So are there any sort of things that you would adjust for a tight-knit cohort type program?
Yeah, I saw your question earlier and I was thinking about it. I think it's actually a kind of nice situation that you have, because you're kind of surpassing the surface level of getting everybody acquainted, and then you can move on to activities that are more content focused, or students are generally more comfortable with each other in your context. You've already built that community, which is really important. So I think there's probably a type of motivation that you have access to with your group of students that other instructors might not necessarily have, ones with large classes where nobody knows each other. So I that doesn't answer your question specifically, but I think that you can then create activities that are skipping that step. So even brainstorming activities, it depends on what your goal is, what you're trying to do, and what you want them to engage for. But I think it's kind of a nice situation that you have personally. I don't know, Mariette, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, it does sound like a really nice situation. It's true, because in large classes, students don't know each other, but these students already know each other. So yeah, but I think you could still do things like do like a mural check in, Jasmine, like the screenshot that you showed from the geography course, like, how are you feeling today? Things like that. Or I mean, again, it depends on what you're looking to do, but things like that could still work, or putting them in groups to work on case studies. I think that should still work.
I think you might also get deeper engagement because they're more comfortable with each other. So maybe they're not shy. They're more willing to say things they wouldn't necessarily shared if it was a class that they didn't know. their peers in.
Unfortunately, sometimes it can work negatively that they know each other too well because they've seen each other in residence and at lunch and and
They
last
have
night,
inside
and
jokes.
they end up discussing things that are not relevant to the course.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, it is a fine line.
I mean, my question on the chat was not clear. First, thank you for clarifying. I mean, I was aware of many of those tools, but clarifying like the different kind of categories of engagement and through different settings as well, it kind of helps to say, okay, I'm missing some there, more, so that was helpful. It's more, my question is about on discussion boards. Sometimes they do, students do engage quite well, but then after that, for me to be able to follow everything is like, I never succeed in myself being as much engaged as they are, and then I lose kind of track of, so that is my question. Maybe I'm giving too many opportunities for engagement and I should give less. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Are the activities required? Are they part of a grade?
Yes, usually it's I usually give entry tickets to the classes, and some are interactive. So entry tickets, sometimes they have to submit a very small, I don't know, synthesis of a reading, or some other times they will have to, as I said, ask questions, engage with other students on the discussion board to discuss the content, or, all sorts of things. But so once in a while, there are some that are on the discussion board.
And how many students do you have?
In that class, close to 30.
Okay.
It's
So
not that much, but still.
Yeah, I mean, there are different things you can do. I guess one of my thoughts is you can have the kind of model that was in that pharmacology course where students are required not to post in every single discussion, but maybe 3 throughout the term. I mean, I don't know exactly what your activities look like, but just as a suggestion, just to cut down on all of the posts. Having a student moderator every week might be interesting. So you could break the students down into like 3 closed groups with 10 students, and then have a moderator every week for each of those groups that has to do something specific. I don't know, you could tie it to a grade, I'm not sure, but then at least it gives those student moderators a little bit of responsibility at least 1 week of the term to have
Okay,
to
that's a nice idea. In fact, that's a nice idea. Yeah. Okay. And
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? If not, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Is it sharing? Yeah. Oh, it was sharing the whole time. Oops, I thought I think I just expanded the windows with the. Oh, what's happening here? I just want to share the next steps of information. Okay. My bad. We got this. Okay, so here's the link for the upcoming webinars if you are interested in registering for others, including the mural one, which is always quite interesting and engaging. We have some resources here: the teaching and learning knowledge base, the TLS website, which has the different types of active learning strategies on there and ideas for those kind of activities. And we also have the teaching blog, which is interesting. We encourage instructors to connect with colleagues. You might have colleagues that are doing some really interesting things with different tools or not, just different strategies that you don't even realize. So it's always a good way to learn what others in the community are doing. And then if you do want to book a consultation with someone at TLS, whether it be for your course design or learning how to get set up with a specific tool or technology, you can do that at the URL here. And if that's all for today, if you don't have any questions, thank you so much for attending. And I hope that you get to enjoy the beautiful day. We really appreciate your attendance and your collaboration and engagement. So thanks so much. Stop the recording.